Do it.
Everybody trying to be content creators and trying to go viral. You want to go viral?
Okay, you want to go viral. Let's go viral then.
Say less.
Let go.
Let's embrace it. Let's love it. Let's enjoy it. And let's give them the experience of their life. That's Roswell for you, baby. Come together. And guys, this is Speaking Out Loud. I appreciate you guys joining us. Don't forget to share and dance like you just don't care. It's early in the morning. Let's have a day. And like I said, be a friend. Tell a friend something nice. It might change their life. Shout out PMS. Change their life. Good morning and welcome to Speaking Out Loud. I am your host, Rene Ruiz. And my right-hand man is not here today. He is on a work trip in Albuquerque. So T's and P's to JB. Hopefully he drives safe and learns a little something at the conference that he's in today. So shout out JB. For JB, this is a rough week as it is for myself as our teams both are they're both on the verge of I hate to say this, but we're both on the verge of becoming sellers. This weekend, I think, is probably the game that will dictate that for both of us. Us playing the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. It's on display for the entire world to see. Probably the ultimate crash out by all Cowboy fans if somehow Kyler Murray goes into AT&T Stadium and continues his success that he's had since. I think if we look at history, it dates back all the way to high school. Kyler Murray has been balling out at AT&T Stadium from high school to college to the NFL, and the stakes are at its highest this Monday night. I'm a little nervous. I'm very nervous. I think after what we saw this weekend from the Cowboys, Yesterday, I said we could close the book on the Dak Prescott MVP conversation. When I posted the clip, I got a lot of pushback saying I got called a casual. Which, all right, I would probably say the same thing if I saw somebody else say that. But I think it's fair. I think it's fair. I think when we look at the season that we've had, I know that it's been that Dak is the reason that we're winning. I don't want to get that confused with just saying that we're shutting the book down on the MVP conversation. It's not a shot at Dak. I mean, it's just a shot at the team, really. Is Dak the most valuable player on the Dallas Cowboys? Yeah, that's a very true statement. Now, is he the most valuable to the league, which is what the MVP, I think, in my opinion, is? Because you can't be MVP on a losing team, and as of right now, that's exactly what the Dallas Cowboys are. Your team is a product of your own leadership, and everyone has had nothing but good things to say. Anybody that's played with Dak Prescott has nothing good to say about Dak as far as him being a leader and so on and so forth. But it's hard to make an argument for Dak being the MVP because if we look at the numbers that he's thrown, Dak in the two losses, our offense has only scored 24 and 14 points. 24 coming to the Broncos. You could say a lot of that was in garbage time, and then you'll look at the Bears, and man, that is not aging well. 14 points on the Bears, no bueno. But before I start digging in more into Dak, Jay, let's talk about what happened last night in baseball. The World Series is in Game 3. As of last night, the Dodgers pulled off a victory with a Freddie Freeman walk-off home run. Boom, smack. Crowd goes crazy. Baseball going into 1 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. My friends, get your coffee in, get your Red Bull in, get your pre-workout, or whatever you need to light up this morning because I know a lot of us are exhausted. I tried to stay up. I'm a casual watcher of the baseball. This is about the time I start. The World Series is when I lean in, and boy, was it a perfect day to tune into baseball last night. The boys were tied 4-4 going into the ninth inning. I think the Dodgers. They were in the perfect spot. And guys, I might sound a little dumb when I'm talking here baseball, but just bear with me. I'm a casual, and I was introduced to your sport. I wasn't introduced to it. I like baseball in the playoffs. It always gets fun, right? Um, but right now, if you were to tell your friend you got to watch a baseball game, that would have been last night. And now I'm juiced up for today. What's crazy is they go and play again today in 18 hours from this morning when the game ended at 1 o'clock. Uh, they went all the way to the 18th inning. So they basically played 2 games in one and are about to play game 4 tonight. Shohei Ohtani, from my understanding, this is the Babe Ruth, the Barry Bonds, the every great that we've ever probably thought of. That's all in one in Shohei Ohtani. And what's crazy is I found out this morning, Buddy's pitching today for game 4. After the game in the interview, they asked him how he's preparing for his starting pitching day, and he said, I'm just trying to get some rest. I just need to go to sleep. The game ended at 1 p.m. Jay, let's go ahead and let's listen in to what it sounded yesterday as Freddie Freeman hits the walk-off. Let's hear this. Let's.
Scherzer's home with an 0-1. Ohtani rips it down the line. It is a fair ball.
Oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Wrong highlight. That was Shohei Ohtani displaying his greatness. Went 4 for 4, which is a massive deal in baseball. But let's listen into this Freddie Freeman walk-off home run last night. On the bottom of the 8th, no runners on base, no outs, tied 5-5. Boys, baseball was going on for another 2 hours. I think I was watching it. I think ninth inning, Dodgers perfect situation. Coming into the inning, they got the beginning of their batting lineup. I'm not sure what the term is for that exactly, but it looks like it's all the goats. It was Ohtani, Mookie, and then Freddie Freeman, right? So I thought it was going to end there in the ninth, and then that's the last thing I remember until I woke up, and it was like 2 a.m. And I'm sure this probably happened to a bunch of people. Fell asleep. They're in the 10th. Woke up at 2 a.m. with my TV still on. And I'm like, dang, what happened? Like, I woke up thinking that I just barely fell asleep for 5 minutes because it was on commercial. And then as soon as the commercial's over, next thing comes on Sports Center, and it's the highlights of the Dodgers game. I'm like, damn, I missed it. What happened? And I'm watching the highlights at 2 a.m. and boom, 18th inning. I'm like, holy crap, this game just ended not too long ago. So let's listen into the sounds of LA. And if you look out in the stands, just look behind the batter box. The Dodgers fans were grinding it out. The fact that this place was still packed at 1 a.m. in California, they're 2 hours behind us here in New Mexico. So I guess it would have only been 11 p.m., which probably isn't the worst that it could be. But for the folks out in the East Coast, they probably crashed and are watching highlights this morning. But let's listen into LA right now.
Los Angeles. Freeman sends a fly ball to center field. Varsho's going back before the catch strikes me.
That is so cool. The disappointment in the corner. Oh my god, look how packed it is, bro. Second home run this postseason. I was listening to Jet Passings this morning, and he said that Buddy had been struggling, but come October, Freddie Freeman seems to always show up, and showing up, that man did, bro. Man, how electric, Jay? How electric was that? You're a Dodgers follower, right? I would say. Let's see. Santiago said I'm sorry. Say that again. I what the energy level? Jay's saying it was electric last night. At 1 o'clock in the morning to say it was electric, man, that says a lot. Like I said, the stands in that stadium, wow, incredible.
It's pretty
Otani,
crazy.
say that again. Otani did what?
Ohtani reached base 9 times yesterday, which is a postseason record. So that was pretty crazy to see too.
Dang, he went 4 for 4, and it seemed they're in the first 9 innings they were actually pitching to him, which as a casual watcher of the baseball, I thought as I was watching that, I'm like, why are we even pitching to this guy? This has got to you got to make this boring. It's like one of those situations when we're watching a UFC fight and someone is just much more dominant, but one person is more technical, and the crowd kind of teases the fighter into engaging whenever his style is jab, jab, move around, jab, jab, move around, stick, throw a little haymaker here and there, but stick and move, stick and move. Kind of some people would call that a boring fight. Some of that would be the love of science, of the boxing science. But in this case, I thought, I'm like, man, why are we pitching? Why are we pitching to this dude? And then they stopped pitching to him. I did the highlights showed that in the 13th, 14th inning, it came
Yeah.
close to ending. I'm sure a lot of folks were like, come on, let's just smack one out of the park. There was a couple teasers where they got to the wall, but not quite over. And until the 18th, Freddie Freeman yet again delivers, and from what I've been told, is this man this is what this man does. It's nothing new for Freddie Freeman. But the thing that blew me the most here is the fact that Shohei Ohtani's starting tonight, and the fact that baseball is going back to back to back. Like even after tonight, they play again the following day for Game 5, where the Dodgers can close it out. Hey, I'm assuming America is behind the Dodgers, considering that we're going against a team that's over the pond, or not over the pond, but down the street, up north in Toronto, Canada. So I'm assuming that the USA flags are. We're rolling high. We're rolling high. I will be tuned into this Dodgers game tonight. I'm juiced. I'm pumped. I don't know that I've been this excited about baseball. I might slide in a little wager. Jay, are you? Is there a bet that's just promising in baseball right now? Is there?
Uh, I would say, I mean, Otani anytime hit.
Otani anytime hit. I'm sure that's
Yeah,
probably like a minus 700. It's like a guaranteed coming
yeah,
from
it
show
probably went up
that
by now,
Thursday.
but yeah, for sure. But it still works out. I mean, I've been hitting a lot on baseball recently, so it's pretty crazy.
We're hot. We're hot on baseball. Nice
Yeah,
Toronto Blue. It's whenever I look at when I'm looking at the numbers here on these teams, it also blows my mind. Like the Dodgers record is 93-69. I think that's why it's so tough to follow baseball. It's just so damn long. So long. Like you think the NBA is long with 82 games. These boys play 154 if my math is adding up right here. Bro, that's feels like a little too long for my liking. But Jay, you want to know what else is back besides baseball? And that is the good old sport of the NBA. And Draymond Green was back on his antics last night. Draymond and the Warriors went over to play they hosted the Memphis Grizzlies there at Golden State. Another late game in California. Man, these late games are tough, bro. These late games are tough. I did try to tune in here, but fell asleep just a little bit. Kendrick Perkins really he's making the rounds. Kendrick Perkins is making the rounds in media. I'll touch on Kendrick Perkins here in a second, but Draymond Green got a technical foul, and there's no NBA without a Draymond Green technical foul to kick it off. And I think this is probably what we're going to expect from him, right? Draymond's always a player that is he's he's comical. He's very animated, and he's always close to almost getting suspended when it comes to the playoffs because of all the technicals that he's accumulated through the season. If you follow this team, sometimes Draymond does it on purpose to get the boys juiced up a little bit, get them fired up, wake them up. As there is 82 games, it is hard to stay locked in for each game. The Warriors right now are sitting at 3-1 after winning yesterday in a blowout fashion to the Memphis Grizzlies. The only game that they lost was to the betting Blazers with Chauncey Billups. I believe that was the game after Chauncey Billups was arrested. So it was um, God, Chauncey got arrested for gambling allegedly, which is dang pretty crazy what's happening in the NBA right now. So the NBA definitely needs some good games so we can kind of put that behind us and not allow that news cycle to continue to recirculate and ruin the integrity of the game as it probably is now. You got to start looking at some of these games. I'm assuming that a lot of people are looking at these basketball games right now and they're just highly critical of every bad thing that happens. You know, if something stupid happens, like those Shaq in a Fool moments or those "Come on, man." Remember those "Come on, mans" on ESPN? Whenever those happen, I'm assuming that every bettor in the world is like, "Oh, he might be selling out. He might be selling out." But let's just see Draymond's antic after getting called a technical foul that he believed he didn't think it was a technical foul, and in his eyes, in this situation, he said, "Ball never lies. Ball never lies."
And this ball free throws. Look at Draymond. he's hopping around. The crowd is screaming.
I
think he liked that. And of course, he's probably yelling, "Ball don't lie." Look at him.
Yeah. Oh man, it's nice to see Draymond Green still out there having fun. This Warriors team, Cheech told me that this Warriors team, Cheech, uh, NBA enthusiast for the show, he told me that this Warriors team's a injury away from completely being a flop, from going from a top 5 team in the NBA or in the Western Conference, which is basically the NBA, right? The Western Conference is what it is still and will always be, it seems like. And then if you go over to the East, as you guys remember, the LeBron teams that just dismantled every team in the East. I think LeBron, if he were to go back to the East, he would still be in a similar situation. It don't seem like the East is quite there as far as competing with the West, but that's neither here or there. But he did tell me that this team is an injury away, and the way just watching them boys play in these 4 games, it's spread offense as it's always been. Get a lot of shots off, and let's try to run these boys out of the arena. That is Warriors basketball, small ball. Uh, if you remember, at one point, the Warriors were told that their backcourt was too small and they'd never win a championship. You live with the shot, you die with the shot. And they showed us that you can definitely live with the shot. And I believe this Warriors team can make a great run. I think Western Conference Finals is I don't think that's out of the reach. I don't think that makes me delusional to think that the Warriors can get to the Western Conference, especially how stacked up the West is. But it's TBD. Let's see how this team fares against a Denver Nuggets team. And the NBA is such a long season that it's hard to really overreact to anything early. But the one thing that the Warriors emphasized on this year was getting off to a great start. And a great start that has been so far, winning 3 of their 4 games and only losing to the Blazers. The wins coming to top teams in the Western Conference. So I like the way I like the way the Warriors are trending right now. I love the way that the Warriors are trending right now, and I think my prediction will possibly come true later on in the year or later on into next year. Mind you, the NBA goes on until June. June is when the playoffs begin. So that's where I expect the Warriors to be. Jay, I hope I get to go to an NBA game this year. I waited until Kobe's last year to go see him, and I would say I regret it. I wish I would have went and just saw him in his prime when I had the opportunity. Um, because you think about all the money that we waste on a bunch of junk, right? So if maybe I just don't go out to eat a couple times, I would be able to scramble a couple of dollars together to go see Steph. Of course, you got to get a flight and then the hotel and then the ticket itself, so on and so forth. But one thing that I've learned from going to events is if you're going with 2 people, like if it's just you and a partner, or you and a girlfriend, or your significant other, or your wife, or whatever it may be, or just you and a buddy, or just you by yourself, which I encourage. My sister traveled out to Washington once by herself, and I was nervous for my sister. Don't know why I was nervous for my sister. My sister is a whole ass adult. I shouldn't be this nervous for my sister traveling alone. But she went to Washington to an Olivia Rodrigo concert. From what she reported back was time of her life. Meanwhile, we were over here panicking just a little bit. My sister's phone died before the concert. She lost her phone. So when they tracked my sister's location, it was nowhere near where she was supposed to be. So my mom started panicking. My sister actually called the police department in Washington because they were starting to freak out. It's kind of funny now that we look back at it. Hilarious, hilarious. And on the other side, my sister is just having the time of her life. Anyways, she comes back, said, coolest experience. One of the coolest experiences. Win by yourself, something that me as a dude, have been afraid to do. Maybe that's just me being socially awkward, which I don't know when that happened because I feel like I've always kind of been a social butterfly. So maybe that's just me in my own head. Maybe that's just me in my own head. But anyways, I encourage you guys to go out and experience it once by yourself, just you and your other, or you by yourself. And really, I think the real gadget is that you can find tickets day of. Most events, most events, day of, you can probably get a ticket at, I mean, cheap price. Because then you got those sellers that are just like panicking, like, holy shit, I might not sell my ticket. Like, check in this weekend. Let's just say, for example, we're gonna go. Oh, let's look at this week 9 slate. Let's just say, what's a funny game that might be a little expensive? Jay, what do you think? Kansas City Buffalo? That seems like a ticket that. Bills. You know what? Let's look at. Yeah, Bills. That might be a tough one to get into. I'm gonna look at their tickets though this weekend. I'll look Sunday. They play at 2 o'clock, so I'm gonna look. Let's just say if we were to go to Buffalo, let's say we fly out there right Saturday. Games on Sunday, so we fly out there Saturday. And we're gonna buy our tickets morning of. So I'm gonna check in on that game. Kansas City versus Buffalo. We're gonna see if there's any tickets available in the morning, and we're gonna see what they're priced at. So I'm gonna compare the price from right now. So here after the show, I'll check the price of what a Buffalo Bills ticket for the Kansas City game is, and then we'll see if there's any available Sunday morning, and we'll see if what I'm saying is correct. Okay. We'll see if it's correct. And we'll compare 2 games. Let's see another one. Let's go with Indianapolis Colts versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's compare that ticket. So we're going to compare 2 tickets to see if my theory is correct, because I would hate to tell you to go to a game and then you get there and it's sold out. That'd be worst case scenario. But you do got to go in with that mentality. You 100% got to go in with that mentality. You got to go like, okay, if I go and the tickets don't drop. So you got to, here's the mentality that you got to go in with. One, you got to go in thinking, all right, this is how much money I'm willing to spend, because we already know what the price is, right? So let's just say a ticket price is sitting at $600. So in your head, you're like, all right, worst case scenario, I'll just pay $600. Okay. Best case scenario, you get that ticket for like 300, right? And then the second thing on your mindset that you got to change is the understanding of either you just want to get into the stadium or you're okay with the activities that surround the game. So, for example, if you go to a Cowboys game, all right, you're 100% you'll be able to get a ticket to stand for sure. So you'll at least be in the stadium. May not have the greatest view, but you'll be a part of it. You'll be in it. You'll hear it. You'll feel the energy. Or you can get section 4, which I wouldn't recommend. I wouldn't recommend being at the very top. I'd rather be somewhere in the standing where you can feel the noise rather than feeling the noise come up to you. Like I said last week, when I went to the first Cowboy game I ever went to, I sat in the very top section, at the very, very, very top, section 4. I could almost damn near touch the roof. Like if Jerry asked me to open the roof for him, I could have probably pulled the wiring. Yeah, I'm joking. It's fine. That's not that simple, but that's about as how high I was, and you could feel, or you could see the energy, you could see the noise, and then you would get like a delayed reaction of noise. So it was almost like it was just slowly building, and then you would get the end of it. Meanwhile, you're like, it's a good time. Good time though. So that's the mentality shift that you got to get. So let's just say we get to Buffalo Saturday night, we get there in the morning, and then we're gonna check the prices. And I'll let you guys know on Overreaction Monday, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time, and I'll let you guys know if we would have gotten in or not, and at what price. Jay, if you can, Jay, while I'm talking, if you could just look up how much the Kansas City Buffalo Chiefs game, how much a price. Let's just say a decent seat. So let's just say section 2. Section 2, section 3. I'm not sure the way Buffalo's stadium is built, how many sections there are, but let's just say a decent ticket, Jay. A decent ticket for 2 people. A decent ticket for 2 people. If you can look up the price for me on Kansas City, Buffalo, and then Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and that way we can have at least a price point to see where we'll be at Sunday. I'm telling you, boys and gals, it's a steal. I'm telling you, it's a steal. You get a little nervous because you don't want to spend, and then and then the tickets don't drop, or you don't want to spend that much. But I'm telling you, I am telling you, it's a steal. It's a steal. No, no, let's go middle of the pack. Let's go middle of the pack. So just somewhere in the middle, somewhere decent seats, not great seats, just decent seats. Let's go somewhere in the middle. What's 954 for what? All right, section 2, section 200. So section 2, $954. And you said row what? Row 2. All right, section 200, row 2, which is pretty good. That's I would say it's pretty great seats. Uh $954 right now. If you want to go see Kansas City versus Buffalo, $954. We're gonna find out if the prices drop come game day. What about Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Jay? Let me know. Let me know what you got there real quick. And while you look that up, let me pull up this clip real quick. Um, we talked to JB. You know, JB was real passionate about Carson Wentz getting the start last Thursday over JJ McCarthy. And the conversation going into that game last week on Thursday was, are we babying JJ McCarthy? Sprained ankle. We've seen multiple people have sprained ankles and are able to come back within a week or two. For example, Puka Nakua last week out, sprained ankle. Guess what? Puka Nakua probably going to play. Is leaning towards playing. According to him, he will be playing this weekend against the New Orleans Saints. So we're talking about a wide receiver, shifty, quick, moving on a sprained ankle. So now you're telling me, granted, you're behind that offensive line in Minnesota that doesn't look very great right now. It doesn't look very good at all. So I get where they're trying to preserve JJ. Don't want to get him hurt, but also we got to see what we got. We have to see what we got because as of right now, the 2 guys that you let go and Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, they look pretty good. It looks like you guys swung and missed. You guys look like Mookie Betts in the World Series right now. What was Mookie Betts last night? 0 for 8. Oh no. Oh no. But I'm assuming if you're a Dodgers fan, you're saying, all right, Mookie MVP player right here, probably gonna go off tonight. I think I like I think I like betting on Mookie tonight. I don't know what the lines are. Obviously, I'm a casual fan watching this, so I'm just excited. But Mookie not getting a hit at all yesterday. I'm assuming it's going to come today. But that's how this Minnesota organization feels right now. It's like they swing and they miss. They swing and they miss. And now they're on JJ McCarthy and they don't know how they want to move forward. But this is what Kevin O'Connell had to say to explain why he didn't pull Carson Wentz. If you guys remember last week on Thursday, the Carson Wentz experience was at an ultimate high. At an ultimate high, what this guy delivered to our eyes on national television was incredible. Uh, they probably should have pulled him out there in the second quarter. I mean, the guy had a hurt elbow, a bad shoulder on both sides. He was wrapped up. I know you guys remember those iconic pictures of Kobe Bryant where he'd just be wrapped up on the shoulder, wrapped up on both knees. That was literally Carson Wentz in between each drive. And then they'd unwrap him and send him right back out there, knowing they had another backup quarterback. And then they had their emergency quarterback in JJ McCarthy, if ready. And then the worst part is you see someone get tackled onto the sideline. JJ McCarthy hurdles, buddy. I mean, hurdles. Looked like he was at the Olympic Games. Looked like he was preparing for the Olympics in 2028. JJ McCarthy looked unbelievable on the sideline. He looked very healthy. But KOC said, nah, we had to. Carson Wentz is a veteran. He knows He knows what to expect. Let's see what he had to say, KOC here.
Yeah, we kept on, checking in, maybe getting Max ready to go. But Tyler was coming to me a lot tonight, but every time he seemed to update me on that, Carson was, he was sore going into it, but he took obviously quite a few hits but he was able to.
He was already sore going into the game. He was already not feeling great from the weekend before.
I asked him multiple times, where he was at, and he said he was good and wanted to keep going. I know.
I asked him where he was at, and he said he was good. I have to compare this to the UFC. This is like Carson is a football player at heart. He's a dog. He's not going to pull himself out. You have to save him from himself. And if you follow Carson Wentz whatsoever, you know he's not going to come out. You have to pull him out yourself. You have to save the fighter from himself. And in this situation, Carson Wentz was getting beat down. You ever watch a fight? And I'm trying to think of one that I can think of. Man, let's see. Where they're just absolutely getting beat. Man, do you remember when Crawford fought Earl Spence? I think this was 2 years ago. And man, I love Earl Spence. That was my dude. Actually, I was going for him. I betted on him that game, and Crawford took out my favorite fighter. And but they're around like the sixth, or I think it was the sixth round in that boxing match. It was just like, oh my goodness, we got it. Like Earl, dude, already went through a car crash. He had already experienced a bunch outside of the boxing ring in personal life. Almost died in a car accident, and then comes and just is completely getting beat down. And at some point, when you're watching, you're like, "Yo, we got to throw in the towel. Like, save this guy. Allow him to be able to speak or think." Like, this is CTE happening in real life. And KOC goes, "Yeah, I asked him, and he said he was good." Like, he doesn't have this football mentality. Like, come on. You got to save the guy from himself. I respect Carson Wentz for trotting himself out there, man. But let's finish listening in.
It did seem like he was, in pain there a few times.
Kevin, did you think about throwing the max at all independent of the injury stuff, just on a basis of effectiveness?
Yeah, we did. I think, what you have to, Carson's a veteran player. He understands kind of some of our circumstances tonight. I think it's very difficult to ask, a rookie to go in there for his first performance and, have to be kind of weathering it, a little bit for the group.
So that tells me we don't have our backup quarterback prepared enough to come in if he needs to. Is that what KOC is telling us right there? He's telling us we aren't well prepared enough to sit Carson Wentz because we don't want to put a rookie quarterback in a tough situation. Meanwhile, we have no issue trotting out a guy who's wrapped up like that Martian character, the tire commercial. We have no problem trotting that out there, but we're worried about the guy who should have been preparing for the last 3 weeks. It's not like that rookie quarterback, and sorry that I don't know his name here, because he would typically be a third-string quarterback. The only third-string quarterback we've ever heard about was Shedeur Sanders, who seems to always be prepared. But in this case, you're telling me that your backup quarterback hasn't been ready or prepared enough to come in if he needs to on a Thursday night on primetime. You're trying to save a backup quarterback that has had 3 weeks to prepare, who has had his whole life to prepare for one moment that you could have given him. You could have given him just reps. KOC, you could have called the game that would have protected your backup quarterback in this situation. But instead, you trot out a man hanging on for his life.
I did think about that at different times in the game, but at the same time, the confidence we have in Max and the upside we see in Max is real. We just, you also don't want to send him out there and force a level of kind of figure-it-outness that's probably beyond a guy playing for the first time. And that was kind of where the decision was to continue to go with Carson as long as.
Okay, if that's true, then when are we ever going to put him out? When are we ever going to put him out? If we are, because now from my understanding is JJ McCarthy is going to play this weekend. Is it just the fact that maybe Minnesota is afraid to have a QB competition for JJ McCarthy because of the lackluster decisions that this shite of an organization has made? I think that's a fair question to raise, Jay. I think it's fair to say that this team don't know what it's doing right now. This team does not know what they're doing right now. And that's what it feels like. And it's not Overreaction Monday anymore. This isn't an overreaction. This is exactly how the Minnesota Vikings fans should feel. They should feel a level of frustration that's beyond imagine. From watching that clip, I've never feel so irritated listening to KOC because he was okay trotting out a man fighting for his life because he didn't want to put his backup in because he didn't feel like he was well prepared enough for the situation. Now you tell me who you should blame. That he's the quarterback guru. He's the offensive genius. And your backup's not ready? After what, 3 weeks of JJ McCarthy not playing, being the emergency quarterback, whatever that is? A healthy emergency quarterback. That's what it looked like. I know we all saw JJ McCarthy getting rolled up on, doing that little hurdle. Not little, big. Right now, I think you got to be absolutely sick of this Minnesota Vikings team if I'm Borba. And they go over to Detroit this weekend. And it feels like the sky is falling on these boys. And it's going to get ugly. I think that interview for KOC was not a good look. Not a good look. I highly doubt they're going to fire him. I wouldn't look that deep into it. I wouldn't. I mean, obviously the guy's shown that he is an offensive genius. Probably just a bad answer. Bad answer. Probably regrets it. I'm going to assume. Probably regrets trotting out Carson Wentz. I believe Carson Wentz is now having surgery, out for the remainder of the season. So now they have to play JJ McCarthy. And now what's going to be interesting is how short is the leash for JJ McCarthy? That's a legitimate question there, Jay. How short is the leash for JJ McCarthy? Like, how bad does that game have to look against the Detroit Lions, who are buzzing on all cylinders right now? I mean, this game could be a complete whooping. But you want to know what? They're not going to pull JJ McCarthy whatsoever, even if it's a blowout, because their backup isn't prepared. Because KOC told us that this last Thursday, he wouldn't want to put that guy in a situation like that. So I'm going to go based off of his words and assume that if they're getting whooped, he's still not going to put him in because he's not prepared to put a backup quarterback in a tough situation. And it's going to be hilarious when we see it. Because we're going to look back at this interview and he's going to look like it. He's going to look like a complete jackass. That's exactly what he's going to look like. KOC, have your boys better prepared, because that can't be the answer. Now Carson Wentz out for the season, getting surgery. Shout out KOC and the Vikings. Very well done. Very well done. Whew. Too bad JB's not here to rebuttal any of those takes there. But boys, I mean, shoot. That's tough, right? I'm not crazy here. I don't feel like I am. And another disaster happening, and that's in Cleveland. And it sounds like the Cleveland boys. It sounds like they're tired of Dylan Gabriel already. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Hold on. Carson Wentz, Tom Pelissero reported this. Carson Wentz will undergo surgery on his left shoulder and will miss the remainder of the season. Wentz gutted it out as long as he could. Yes, he did. But he was in severe pain Thursday night in LA, and now we'll get his shoulder fixed. That's probably the end. That's probably the end of the Carson Wentz experience. I think it's probably fair to say. Fair to say. Um, Oh, that was fun. That was fun. Another team that's losing it though is the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is Joe Hayden and Debo Samuel. Debo. Big old defensive end from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's see what their reaction was like for the Packers beating the Steelers 35-25 on Monday Night Football. What did these boys have to say?
They're not playing at a high level. Do you know what I'm saying? Like something they have to perform better. They have to put the eyes
Bro,
on
how you don't get up for Sunday Night Football if you can't get up for nothing else? Ain't nothing else on but you at home in front of your family, your kids.
I would not do not
Make that name on your back mean something. Make them 3 stars on your chest mean something.
Debo. It wasn't me not performing. I'm just trying to let you know. That's why I'm like you said. I could be like your counselor, bro, because it's okay. It's all gonna be okay. Everything's still gonna be okay.
Joe, you came from a line of losers. Y'all gonna always be losers.
Damn, now you being disrespectful. I'm trying to just be here for you, and then you just gonna
Joe,
spaz
that was a
on
personal
me.
attack. It's
God
not
damn,
about you,
Debo.
baby. I'm frustrated.
Oh man, that was funny. Debo, that's a personal attack. I feel like that's all our friends group. That's all the chat. That's the chat in the friend group right there. Like when your boys start talking a little ish, and you got to bring up you got to start throwing shade at their team because they're right. That's when you know. That's typically when you know you want a conversation, I think, or a debate. When you're debating something with a friend or an acquaintance or just another person, you typically know you won that conversation or debate. Because I don't know if we're keeping score on conversations, but at what point do we turn it? At what point do you call it a debate if you're just having a conversation? At what point does a conversation become a debate if you are just having a conversation? That's a good question. But that's typically how you know you win, right? Like once your buddy kind of starts throwing shade on your team, it's like, yeah, but your guy. And you see it a lot in politics, right? Where it's like they try to throw shame on one person, but it's like, yeah, but I know he did this, but your guy did this, or your gal did this. And that's how you won. That's how you know you won. Obviously, Debo is frustrated from the boys not showing up this weekend. Let's listen to it again. Let's break it down step by step here. Let's see. Let's find out the level of stress that's happening in Pittsburgh. And I only bring this clip up so that way we can talk about are the Ravens dead? Are the Ravens still alive? Are they still is this still a possibility that the Baltimore Ravens can get into the playoffs? And Jay, I believe those possibilities are there. If we look at this graphic here, Jay, um, I'm talking to Jay, the producer, guys, but I'm also talking when I say Jay, I'm obviously saying Chad at the same time, somewhat. But if we look at this graphic here, the Ravens have the easiest schedule according to PFSN, an X account. Good follow on X. A lot of good information there. But they got the easiest schedule, followed by, or I'm sorry, the Patriots have the easiest schedule, and then the Browns, Saints, Jets, and Baltimore. Baltimore is in there, which is important to know because their schedule. Let me read you what their next couple games. Jay, if you could remove that graphic real quick while I'm pulling this up. Um, the Ravens. So the Ravens are sitting at 2-5. They're third in the AFC. Which, if you're the Bengals, you're just trying to survive. Bengals dropping that game this weekend. That's a tough loss, especially putting up 38 points and still not coming up with the victory. Joe Flacco has obviously revived them, and they just need to get a couple wins to stay alive. But the Baltimore Ravens next couple games, and they're sitting, mind you, they're sitting at 2-5. Okay, 2-5. They just won. Well, Huntley at their quarterback this past weekend, 30-16, so against the Bears. How good are the Bears? We don't know. There's a lot of people questioning Caleb Williams, as they should. But the Ravens got the Dolphins in Miami this weekend, which is actually the Thursday night game, which is actually kind of favors the rest of the NFL because then we find out when the Miami Dolphins are going to sell. And this kind of pushes everything a little bit sooner. So we can expect some trades from the Dolphins Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before the November 4th deadline. So you got the Dolphins. Just going to make the assumption that the Ravens win. And if the Vikings lose this weekend to the Lions, which is probably going to happen, they host the Ravens. But I'm assuming that if the Vikings lose this weekend, they probably become sellers. They probably hang it up for the season and start looking forward to next season. And if that's true, I'm going to give Baltimore the edge on there again. So now that's a 3-game win streak, and you're sitting at 4-5 going into November 16th after the trade deadline. And you're gonna go over to Cleveland, which we've kind of seen what Cleveland is now. Will it still be the same Cleveland? At that point, are we possibly going to see Shador Sanders, which if you follow ESPN Cleveland, based off their radio show, it feels like Shador Sanders is probably going to get the start here pretty soon. Let's see if Stefanski really feels that pressure to put Shador because it seems like he's trying to avoid every chance and possibility he gets to put him in. And Stefanski on the hot seat. I said yesterday, hot take, boys are going to get fired. But the answer is Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniels. Browns, you want to save the organization? That's who we go after. You ain't going to trade Myles Garrett? We'll bring him in a defensive coordinator that can change the energy in that change the culture in that locker room. Someone like Robert Saleh, I know what happened in New York. There was a top 5 defense in New York for some time when Robert Saleh was there. They just couldn't find a quarterback. And maybe the Browns have one, and they just don't know how to start him. Because last time they had someone, they got them wins. They kicked them out. And look at the success he's having now in Tampa Bay. But let me get back to this Baltimore team here. So they go over to Cleveland, and we're gonna assume they look like what they look like right now. And Dylan Gabriel is still the starter. And if Dylan Gabriel is still the starter at the time, I feel very confident that Baltimore will win that game. So now they're sitting at 500. Now they're sitting at 500, and we're almost going into December. And then they got the Jets and the Bengals. The Jets and the Bengals. And the Bengals, we're forecasting here. Let's assume the Bengals are out, okay? They've also kind of banked it in. And this weekend will be very telling. This weekend will be very telling. Who do they got? The Bengals got the Bears. That's going to be a tough one to lose. If they lose that right before the trade deadline, I'm going to assume Trey Hendricks is probably out. because they probably won't come out of that division. So let's just say the Bengals are sellers too. So they're playing a bunch of selling teams. So now they're sitting at 6-5, and they got Pittsburgh, and that's when it gets juicy. That's when you're basically playing for the division. And we go over to Pittsburgh, and we look at their schedule. So now we're sitting at 6-5 going into Pittsburgh, right? So if they win 7-5 and they're in the lead in the division, only one team at the beginning of the season, we're like, hey, probably maybe 4 teams will come out of this division, maybe 3, definitely probably 3. And now we're looking at the possibilities of only one team coming out of that division. And when we look at the Steelers, I'm not as optimistic as I am about Baltimore. When we look at the Steelers lineup here, coming off a tough loss to the Green Bay Packers. Now, granted, we could look at that game and go, they just played the Super Bowl contenders, the potentially the Super Bowl contenders. We lost. It's not like we lost to some scrubs. We may have lost to the best team in the league. So maybe we don't need to dramatize it. At least that's how I feel. As a follower of the Steelers, because the Steelers are part of my family's house, not my household, but part of my fam. So I somewhat wish for their success because I would like to see the people that I'm surrounded by, I would like to see their football or their sports lives have joy. So I root for the Steelers. But when I look at the schedule, like I said, they just lost to potentially the Super Bowl contenders. Potentially the team coming out of the NFC. So we got to chill. We got to relax. Okay? We're talking about one of the best rush defenses in the league, which Jerry Jones told me Mike Parsons not very good, but he did go over to a better defense that needed a pass rusher. And now they have the guy. So that's how 1 + 1 = 2, right? That's basically what happened in Green Bay. So we got to relax on the shots at Dallas on making a bad trade because ultimately I think it was a good trade. But Steelers, we got the Colts. We got the Colts. But the good thing is that it's at home. That game is at home. The one game the Colts lost was on the road. It was a tough loss. Close game, but not an easy matchup. So to me, Steelers got to steal one in these next 2 weeks. At least one. At least one to keep themselves at an advantage when it comes down to them playing the Baltimore Ravens because they still got to play each other twice. So we got to remember that. So they got the Colts, and then they go over to LA to play the Chargers. Now, the Chargers, inconsistency there, but as of last Thursday, Joe Alt came back, their left tackle, which is the one thing that we've been criticizing the most is that can Justin Herbert win you games whenever the offensive line is not necessarily healthy or playing well? And it's gone to show that he hasn't played very well whenever he's losing or whenever he doesn't have his starting left tackle, which in most situations that's fair. That's fair. Left tackle, left side, strong side. You need your blind side to be protected because you can't see there, right? He got his boy back, and boy, did that Chargers offense look amazing. And they did go against the Minnesota Vikings defense. They're pretty good. The defense is what's keeping that Minnesota team alive right now. So for them to go out there and dominate, you got to give the Chargers and Justin Herbert credit. So with that being said, I don't feel great. Don't feel great for a team right now that can't stop a nosebleed in Pittsburgh. The only thing that I'm optimistic about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and it's all potential. They got a lot of vets that I feel can get it together in a matter of time. Now we're at week 8. Now we're going into week 9. So now you're probably like, all right, now we got to see it play out. We got to start seeing progress on this defense because right now we're still up in limbo. What are they missing? What is it that they're missing? And I just think it's a consistent running game. I think it is a consistent running game. That's really what I think it is. I mean, Pittsburgh had they held the Packers to 9 points there in the first half, and then they just dropped the ball in the second half. Maybe fatigue. I mean, you can only guard so long, right? It's the NFL, and at some point, it's going to break through. And now, can you just get that important stop that you need the most? And it feels like the Steelers make critical stops, but then we don't match the energy on offense. It's inconsistent. There's no balance with the team offensively and defensively. So I don't know if it's just one thing that we could point at for the Steelers, but you definitely got to show, especially with the amount of money that is being spent on that defense. At this point, I see the frustration because it is the level of money that we're spending on the defense, and yet no results or inconsistent results. I guess that's a better way to say it. So let's say they lose those 2 games, right? Now they're sitting at 4-5. So now it's just a race of who loses first. And they got 2 games going against each other. So we're probably gonna come down to the end of the season, and guess who? Guess who? Dang, bro. Yeah. The Ravens and the Steelers play at the very end of the season, and that might dictate who's going to go into the playoffs. It actually sets up perfectly. But man, this Steelers schedule is tough, bro. It's tough on this back end. Colts, Chargers, Bills, Ravens twice, and then the Detroit Lions. Yo, my level of concern just went up like crazy on this Steelers team. Colts, Chargers, Bills, Ravens twice, and Lions. 6. 6 out of 8 games are to potential playoff contenders, or I mean, I guess you could say Super Bowl contenders at this point, right? At Colts, if you're a Colts fan, you're like, yeah, we have a Super Bowl team. If you're a Chargers fan, you're like, of course, we're supposed to make a run. It's supposed to come together this year. If you're a Bills fan, you're like, we're supposed to get over the hump this year. This is the year. Lions fans, up over the moon. You have the most fun team in the league. It's like watching the Warriors when you tune into a Detroit Lions game. And then you got the Ravens twice. What are the Ravens? What are the Ravens? And have we just been blinded by the fact that they've had so many injuries on the defensive side of the ball that now when they start getting healthy, these boys just might turn it up. And the MVP conversation for Lamar Jackson might just tune up just a little bit. Let's expect a welcome back, Lamar, on Prime Video this Thursday. That's what my expectation is for this Lamar Jackson-led Baltimore team. And I know last week I said, how am I supposed to trust this defense whenever what they've shown to us is they're the worst defense in the league? But have they just not been healthy? And we've just been looking past that? And now as they start to get healthy, do we expect that team to amp up? There's always that one surprise team, right? On both sides. There's a team that had a lot of success last year and then comes into this year and just flops. And that, my friends, is the Washington Commanders. And there's always that team that stinks at the beginning of the season and then goes on a crazy run into the playoffs. If you guys remember back, the New York Giants, when they made their Super Bowl run, they barely snuck into the playoffs as the 6th seed. This is before they added the extra 7th seed, the wild card spot, right? Or the extra wild card spot. And the Giants go on, make a run, generational run, one of the greatest runs of all time. And they beat the undefeated Patriots. Remember that, because that is the feel that we might be feeling from the Baltimore Ravens as this season comes on the back end. And it's about to get juicy. That division is about to be fun. You know what's crazy is even when some things are at their worst, when it comes to an end, like for example, if we were to watch a football game and it's 3-0, we would be like, this game is shite. But come the last 2 minutes, we would be the most engaged fans in the world because all of a sudden, one possession means the world. And that's what this Baltimore team may display. A run like the New York Giants when they went out there and won the Super Bowl. Why not Baltimore? Why not? Why not? And Pittsburgh Steelers fans are like, because of us. Duh. Guys, I appreciate you guys joining me, waking up with me this morning, getting ready with me. going through the NBA, talking a little baseball. Go us, talking a little baseball. Shout out baseball. It's happening tonight. Shohei's pitching, making history, one game at a time. What we are witnessing is greatness. So embrace it. Even if you're a casual like myself and you're tuning in for the first time, just know that you are watching what a lot of us think of people like a Kobe Bryant or a Michael Jordan or a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Lionel Messi. That is what's in front of our TV tonight in Shohei Ohtani. So shout out baseball for being alive and at its highest peak. And I thank you guys for joining me this morning. And tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, where Tim Foley will join us to talk college football. JB will be back on the show tomorrow, probably reacting all the juice that I just put on the Minnesota Vikings and KOC. But let's have a day. Let's enjoy it. And let's be great. And be a friend. Tell a friend something nice. It might change their life. And that statement means more than you think. That statement means the world. So don't be afraid to call a friend and let them know you love them, or a family member, or just yourself. Because we're worth more than you think. Ladies, fellas, love you guys. Let's have a day. See ya.